Hi, my name is Maisie. I wanted to introduce myself today because I realized that all of my other videos actually, I've been a little bit scatterbrained and I've gotten straight into the topic without introducing myself. I am a huge plant enthusiast. You name the plant, I want it or I got it, you know what I mean? I started collecting plants when I was about 13. I moved across states. I wasn't able to bring a lot of my plants, so I brought some succulents, but as a lot of us plant people know, plants are easy to overwater. I was 13. I ended up killing a lot of those succulents, but in that process, I learned a lot about plants and I got interested in more plants. I ended up coming back to Arkansas when I was 16, I believe, and then it all went downhill from there. I lived very, very close to a garden center and I worked at a local grocery store. Every time a plant would come in and look really nice, I would watch that plant basically shrivel up and die, and then I would get it on discount because I couldn't see it die, you know what I mean? And I couldn't watch it be thrown away, so I took it home right before they took it off the shelves. And that's what really got me started in plants, was rehabbing some of those grocery store plants and big box store plants. But anyway, I wanted to just give you guys a quick intro on what got me started in plants. Where I am now, I have about 160 to 170 plants in my home alone. I moved out about a year ago during the Rona, and ever since then, I've just been collecting plants almost like 2 a week. My mom actually, when I was living at home, limited me on my plants because I just didn't have enough space in my room for, I think, more than 12. So I had to stop. But anyway, today's video is a basic care guide to Peperomia. And I wanted to pick Peperomia today because it is one of the easiest to find and the easiest to care for plants, like, or genuses. So let's go ahead and start talking about the Peperomia. This is a Peperomia trinervis, and I just wanted to bring her out here to talk about the light needs, the light requirements. All right, so this Peperomia is a really good example for Peperomia's light requirements because as you can see, it is kind of like leaning over. And before I had it put in a spot where I wasn't able to access any good light, so it was completely leaned over, completely stretched towards the light. And then I moved it, and now it's standing up and it looks all happy, and its leaves are getting a little bit more firm to the touch. It wasn't absorbing water as well when it wasn't in good light. So anyway, what is good lighting for Peperomias? You know, a lot of plant people just like to say bright indirect light, but for beginners, that can mean almost anything. So what we mean by bright indirect light is if there is something that is slightly blocking the sun's rays, or there are lots of trees in front of your window, then it can diffuse that light. So I have a west-facing window, and I have a couple of good-sized trees in front of my west-facing window. So I kind of can get away with putting my Peperomia about a foot away from the window and not having a big problem in the winter time. But in the summer, I tend to take them a little bit far back, and I put them in my north-facing window with a little bit of that west-facing light. This is west, and then over here is north. And so I put them in my north-facing window over there with a little bit of that west-facing light, and most of them do pretty well there in the summer. This plant in super direct light for a while. So it was in front of this window that has no tree blocking it, and the sun is that is directly west. And so it was getting a couple hours a day of direct sunlight. And right here, you can see it's burnt the cuticle just a little bit. And it's not going to kill the plant, just you gotta move it out of that indecent light and get it into somewhere it'll be a little bit happier. And it still did grow for me while it was in that light, but I think that the growth came out a little bit funky and maybe a little bit crunchy at some times. So this is a Peperomia obtusifolia variegata, or Golden Gate. It's a beautiful plant. I totally recommend it. And I'm gonna go on straight to water. So I wanted to go on to water with this example because this has very tough, brittle leaves. So if you really want to fold it, it's gonna break on you unless it's dehydrated. So these are a great beginner plant because they definitely tell you when they need to be watered. So if you go ahead and like just squeeze the leaves a little bit, you can tell that these leaves, they're not bending super easy. Maybe at the top, it usually shows that it needs to be watered at the top first, but I let it work its way down to the very bottom leaves until those leaves are really easy to bend. And then I water. Because Peperomia are one of those plants that they aren't super prone to dying because of underwatering, but they are prone to dying because of overwatering. Because they're more succulent plants and they hold a lot of water in their leaves. So yeah, I let them wait till they're bone dry. I actually bought this plant and it was overwatered and it smelled really funky, kind of like this sweet mildew smell, and it smelled like it had been overwatered. So I let it dry out and acclimate to my space, and I saved it from dying from root rot. Right, for water, another good example is this little Peperomia pink lady. I love her so much. I think she's so cute. She has these little pink leaves. So I wanted to bring this one up for watering because it's that same situation. Go towards the newer leaves and feel the newer leaves. And if those newer leaves feel super bendy, it's time to water. Another good thing to note is that you need to have really well draining soil, but Peperomias really do not like to be in large pots. They like to have their root systems kind of confined, but you also have to note that their root systems are very small. So I let this one dry out, and I'm also letting it kind of overgrow this pot. I'm gonna let it grow for quite a bit until it really tells me it needs a new pot, because I know that its root system is very small, and also you can tell it is quite floppy, and I don't want it to flop so much, you know what I mean? I'm editing this now, and I totally forgot to say that if you just bought a Peperomia, wait at least like 3 months to repot it, because unless it needs to be repotted right away, like it's super compact or the soil is not draining, don't repot it as long as you can, because they don't like that. They don't like to be moved around. It makes them either like stop growing or they die altogether. I've had Peperomia survive, but I would never dare repot a Peperomia in the winter. No. I'll talk a little bit more about soil. So I recently bought this Peperomia prostrata, or Peperomia string of turtles, and it's faring pretty well because they gave it like a really good chunky aerated soil, and I've been giving it kind of good humidity. But these plants really enjoy a lot of humidity, but they don't like to be waterlogged. They will root rot and then they will die. A lot like string of pearls or basically any other succulent plant. The more water you give them and the more that they're sitting in that wet soil, they're going to get root rot. Let's go on to humidity. All right, so I have 2 of these little Peperomia meridianas, but my other one is over there. It's not as much of a showstopper because it's just plain green, and this one has some beautiful variegation. As you can see, this one got a little bit crispy because it doesn't have quite adequate humidity. Or people tell me these are meant to be terrarium plants, but they seem to fare pretty well in my sunroom. I filled up my humidifier, I put it in the basin, so I'm gonna be right back. So it's really good to get a humidifier. If you're really a beginner and you don't have a whole bunch of plants, or if you have just beginner plants, you don't really need to worry about humidity too much. As you get into some of the more challenging plants like Calathea, Maranta, and I wouldn't call Peperomia challenging at all, but they do enjoy their humidity. So I got myself a little humidity monitor. I guess I'll have to show you that too. And I keep the humidity above 30 at all times. And the way I do that is I just have one humidifier running. I used to have two, but I broke them, and I'm just too cheap to get another one. And it's also Christmas time, I have to buy presents. Now what my easy fix is I've been taking little jars and I've been filling them up with like pretty rocks and water. Oh, just spilled that on me. But, and that just keeps that ambient humidity. I think it gives it about like a 5% raise. I feel like we covered every super basic need of a peperomia, but I don't fertilize super often because I water my plants with mostly fish water, and they have some fish emulsions in them. But I would say Peperomia don't need a whole lot of fertilization, period, because they are pretty prolific plants. I'm gonna just go ahead and show you a few that I have set in front of me to end out this video. And this is a Peperomia Harmony's pumpkin. I just want to bring her out because she's honestly so gorgeous. If you guys want to go check out my Peperomia collection video to get a better look at all of my Peperomias, that's actually my last video, and I would love for you guys to check it out. I just want to point out, not very good draining soil, so I might end up changing out her pot soon. And she's a good example of that. You can see the soil is dark brown, it's really dense, the pot's heavy, it's not well draining, and the plant is taking way too long to tell you it needs water. That's or it's getting soft. Those are your signs that you need to change that soil or change something that you're doing. I hope I didn't just blabber on throughout this video, but I really hope you guys enjoyed. I think I'm gonna show you one more that I pulled out because I just love her. I have two here. Peperomia scandens and then the Peperomia scandens variegata. They're viny Peperomia. I said I was done, but I swear I am done now. I hope y'all enjoyed this Peperomia video. I just want to clarify I'm not an expert, and if you need more reliable information, I actually should suggest going over to Summer Rain Oaks. She has the best information on just about any plant. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day. Bye.